You wake up sweating, not from the Texas heat, but from the mortgage you just signed. Then you check Zillow and median home prices in Austin are still hovering near $560,000 in early 2025. God, that's not a starter home, that's a starter financial coma. And you thought Texas was the land of affordable housing, right? Nope. You got lured in by barbecue smoke and low tax promises, then slapped with property taxes that feel like a second mortgage and insurance bills so high you'd think the house came with a yacht. Wow. You realize quick, the so-called Texas dream is looking a lot like a foreclosure waiting room. And the deeper you drive, the uglier it gets. Let's start. Number 10. Killeen. You roll into Killeen, and the first thing you notice is the endless rows of nearly identical houses. According to Redfin's early 2025 data, median home prices here dropped more than 11% compared to last year. 11% in a so-called stable Texas market? That's not just a dip, that's your equity packing its bags. Killeen lives and dies by Fort Cavazos, formerly known as Fort Hood. And when troop rotations shift, so does the demand for housing. You can almost hear the for sale signs clattering like wind chimes down the block. The homes themselves? Modest, 3-bedroom boxes with HOA fees that can feel like paying rent twice. Property taxes hover around 1.9%, higher than the national average, and Zillow shows new listings piling up at nearly double the pace of 2023. God, I had to read that twice. Double. And the days on market? Up nearly 50% year over year. That's not a market, that's a waiting room. Insurance premiums here aren't spared either. Texas Department of Insurance data shows rates climbing another 15% in Bell County since 2022. And for a $200,000 house, you're looking at close to $3,000 a year in insurance before you even fix the air conditioner. Add in Killeen's unemployment rate ticking up above 5%, worse than the state average, and you see how fragile the whole setup is. One oil hiccup, one troop shift, and poof, the housing market's on life support. Some locals call it affordable, and sure, compared to Austin, it is. But affordability doesn't mean stability. It means you could be holding the bag when the military moves on. So let me ask, where do you think prices here are headed in the next 12 months? Number 9. Beaumont. You pull into Beaumont and it feels humid before you even step out of the car. And here's the kicker. According to the Texas Department of Insurance, average homeowner premiums in Jefferson County jumped more than 90% between 2022 and 2025. 90%! I actually said no way out loud. Imagine buying a $200,000 house here and then paying nearly $4,000 a year just to insure it. That's not protection, that's extortion with paperwork. Zillow's 2025 data shows the median home price hovering around $185,000, which sounds cheap until you realize maintenance and storm prep can drain you faster than the mortgage. Beaumont sits squarely in Hurricane Alley, and FEMA's flood maps don't lie. Nearly half the city's housing stock sits in a moderate to high-risk zone. That means every raindrop feels like a bill arriving early. Inventory here is swelling too. Redfin reports new listings up 28% year over year, with almost 40% of sellers cutting prices just to get an offer. Oof, that's not competition, that's desperation. And while locals are quick to brag about the small-town affordability, the job market tells another story. ExxonMobil and petrochemical plants still dominate the economy, but the sector's been shedding jobs since 2023. That means if oil sneezes, the housing market catches pneumonia. And God help you if you buy in an HOA community here. Fees average $200 a month, and when paired with ballooning taxes, you're staring at a monthly nut that feels more like Dallas than a Gulf Coast deal. So, here's the question. Is Beaumont still a bargain, or is it just a slow-motion foreclosure trap with floodwater rising? Number 8. Waco. You drive into Waco, and the first thing you notice are the new subdivisions sprouting like weeds along I-35. And yet, Zillow's 2025 report shows listings here sitting on the market nearly 50% longer than last year. Wow, 50% longer. That's not buyer hesitation, that's buyer avoidance. Median home prices hover around $290,000, but Redfin data shows more than a third of listings already slashed their asking price. I had to check that twice. A third cut prices. The city leans heavy on its fixer-upper fame, but the TV glow has worn off. Inventory is rising, up nearly 30% year over year, and demand is sputtering. Baylor University helps stabilize rentals, but detached homes are a different story. Families are balking at property taxes north of 2% and insurance premiums that climbed another 10% since 2023. And when you add average HOA dues of $150 a month, that affordable three-bedroom feels like a financial booby trap. Job growth? Slowing. Waco's unemployment rate in early 2025 sits closer to 4.7%, above Texas's statewide average. And office vacancy downtown is climbing, signaling cracks in the local economy. Even the Chamber of Commerce admits in recent reports that migration inflows have cooled since the pandemic surge. This feels less like a hotspot and more like a cautionary tale. Affordable on paper, but hollow in reality, like buying a vintage home that comes with termites and a lien. So let me throw it back to you. Is Waco just correcting, or is this the start of a long, ugly slide? Number 7, Midland. You roll into Midland and the air smells faintly of oil because this city's heartbeat is crude, and when oil prices tank, so does everything else. According to Redfin's 2025 data, nearly 1 in 3 homes listed here have already had a price cut. 1 in 3! I actually had to rub my eyes reading that. The median home price sits near $320,000, but homes are lingering. Days on market jumped almost 60% since last year. That's not supply and demand, that's supply waiting for a miracle. Midland is boom and bust real estate 101. Zillow shows inventory up 35% year over year, a flood of homes chasing fewer buyers. The oil sector still pays well, but rig counts are down, and with crude bouncing all over the place, workers are pulling back instead of planting roots. Local unemployment hovers around 5%, above the Texas average, and that's before you factor in volatility tied to every barrel. Taxes don't do you any favors either. Property tax rates here average 2%, and insurance premiums have climbed almost 20% in the past 2 years, thanks to hailstorms and wind risk. Add in average utility costs that are higher than most Texas cities, Midland ranks among the state's pricier energy markets, and suddenly that cheap house is draining you faster than a leaky well. HOAs? Oh yeah, they're here too, with dues ranging from $150 to $200 a month. It's like paying rent for your own driveway. So here's the kicker. Some call Midland affordable compared to Austin or Dallas, but affordability doesn't matter when equity evaporates the minute oil sneezes. What do you think? Is Midland housing a gamble worth taking, or just another oil-field mirage? Number 6. Corpus Christi. You roll into Corpus Christi and the salt air hits you. Beautiful, until you remember it's eating away at every metal pipe, roof nail, and air conditioner you own. According to Redfin's early 2025 data, nearly 42% of homes listed here had a price reduction before selling. 42%! That's not negotiation, that's surrender. The median home price? About $265,000. Sounds doable, right? But then the bills pile up. FEMA flood maps show nearly 60% of Corpus homes are in moderate to severe flood zones, and insurers know it. The Texas Department of Insurance reports premiums here spiked another 20% since 2023. For a $250,000 home, you're staring at more than $3,500 a year in coverage before windstorm add-ons. God, that's a mortgage payment with a side of nausea. Days on market, up 50% year over year. Inventory, rising 28% according to Zillow. Demand, collapsing, especially among out-of-state buyers who realize the dream of cheap coastal living comes with a lifetime of mold remediation. And the job market doesn't help. Local unemployment runs near 5.2%, above the Texas average. Tourism is seasonal, refineries fluctuate, and good-paying permanent jobs are scarce. Then there's the little details nobody advertises. Salt corrosion that kills your roof in under a decade, property taxes running close to 2%, and HOA fees in new subdivisions averaging $180 a month. Add them up, and you're paying Dallas-level bills for Gulf Coast headaches. So here's the question. Is Corpus Christi still paradise, or just a very expensive waiting room for the next hurricane? Number 5, Dallas. You hit Dallas and the skyline shines, but the housing market, it's groaning. Redfin's March 2025 data shows active inventory jumped nearly 40% year over year. 40%! I actually muttered, ouch, out loud. Median home prices are hovering just under $420,000, but with days on market up 55%, sellers are hacking away at listings like clearance tags in a dying mall. It wasn't long ago Dallas was the migration magnet. People fled California, sold high, and bought bigger here, but the tide's turning. According to Zillow, nearly 1 in 3 Dallas homes now sell below the original asking price. And the costs? They sting. Property taxes average 2.1%, one of the highest in the nation. On a $400,000 home, that's over $8,000 a year in taxes. God, that's not equity, that's ransom. Insurance premiums? The Texas Department of Insurance reports a 25% spike since 2023, thanks to hailstorms that left roofs shredded across North Texas. Some buyers are paying more than $4,000 annually just to stay covered. And don't forget the HOA trap. Hundreds of communities here average $200 to $300 a month in dues. It's like buying a house and then renting it back from a neighborhood committee. The economy looks strong on paper. Job growth, corporate relocations, but downtown office vacancy just hit 25%, raising eyebrows about long-term stability. Remote work gutted demand for glass towers, and it's bleeding into housing confidence. Dallas still looks glamorous at a distance, but up close, it's brittle. Buyers are pulling back, sellers are sweating, and affordability is gasping for air. If you think this is bad, wait until you see city number 1, the real crash landing. So let me ask, is Dallas just cooling off? Or are we watching the bubble slowly deflate in real time? Number 4, Houston. You crawl into Houston traffic and it hits you. This city is massive, chaotic, and absolutely drowning in real estate contradictions. Zillow's 2025 data shows median home prices around $345,000, stable on paper, but peel it back and wow, the cracks are everywhere. Redfin reports more than 35% of Houston sellers cut prices in the last quarter alone. That's not negotiating, that's waving the white flag. Insurance? God. The Texas Department of Insurance says premiums in Harris County jumped nearly 30% since 2023, and that's if you can even find coverage. Several national insurers pulled out after repeat floods and hailstorms. Homeowners are now patchworking coverage with state-backed windstorm pools, which cost more and cover less. It feels like paying first-class prices for a seat in the cargo hold. Then add property taxes, averaging over 2%. On a $300,000 home, you're staring at $6,000 a year before HOA fees. And HOAs here aren't shy. $200 to $300 a month is common. That's $9,000 a year just to belong, equal to some families' grocery bills. I almost laughed, then I didn't. The economy? Oil and healthcare keep it humming, but office vacancy downtown just crossed 20%. That many empty towers drag housing confidence down too. And while Houston boasts affordability, affordability means nothing when insurers vanish, taxes suffocate, and buyers ghost. Locals argue it's still better than Dallas or Austin, and maybe it is. But better doesn't mean safe. It means you might just drown slower. So tell me, is Houston still the affordable alternative, or has the cost of staying dry finally killed the bargain? Number 3. San Antonio. You drive into San Antonio and the Riverwalk glitters, but the housing math? It makes your stomach drop. According to Zillow's 2025 data, the median home price here is hovering near $310,000. Sounds fine until you see that local median incomes are barely $58,000 a year. 60% gap. I had to stop and check that twice. That's not affordability, that's a chokehold. Redfin reports inventory up more than 30% year over year, with average days on market now 50% longer than last spring. Sellers are cutting. Nearly 1 in 3 homes had price reductions this quarter. Wow, that's not trimming fat, that's carving bone. Insurance costs here don't help. The Texas Department of Insurance shows premiums rising another 18% in Bexar County since 2023. For a modest $300,000 house, you're staring at $3,200 a year in coverage, if you can even get wind and hail included. Add property taxes, averaging over 2%, and you've got another $6,000 tacked onto your annual bill. And don't forget HOA dues. New subdivisions around Loop 1604 love to slap you with $200 a month in fees. The local economy looks steady, but not bulletproof. Job growth slowed after the post-pandemic surge, and office vacancies are creeping higher downtown. Meanwhile, foreclosures ticked up almost 10% year over year, according to Adams' foreclosure report. That's small, but it's a warning light. San Antonio always sold itself as the affordable Texas city, but when homes outpace wages by 60%, affordability is a fairy tale. So here's the debate. Is San Antonio just catching up to bigger metros, or is it already standing on the edge of a bubble? Number 2. Austin. You roll into Austin and the first thing you see is a skyline sprouting cranes like weeds, but the buyers? Gone. Zillow's 2025 numbers put the median home price near $560,000. $500! I had to read it twice. That's not a starter home. That's a luxury coffin for your credit score. And yet Redfin reports investor demand collapsed, with sales volume down more than 30% year over year. Here's the part nobody brags about. Investors who bought during the pandemic frenzy are now offloading homes at 20% discounts just to escape. God, 20% gone. Overnight equity incinerated. Active inventory jumped nearly 50% compared to last spring, while days on market ballooned past 60. That's not a bidding war. That's a waiting game nobody wants to play. Insurance adds insult to injury. Premiums spiked another 20% in Travis County since 2023, now averaging over $4,000 a year for a mid-priced house. Pair that with Austin's punishing property tax rate, close to 2.1%, and you're shelling out more than $15,000 annually just to exist under your own roof. Add HOA dues, which run $200 to $300 in new subdivisions, and suddenly your dream home feels like a financial hostage situation. The economy still looks vibrant, tech companies, remote workers, but office vacancies downtown hover above 20%, and layoffs from big names like Meta and Google since 2023 left scars. Migration inflows have cooled too, with census data showing fewer new arrivals in 2024 than any year since 2015. So here's the question. Is Austin still a boomtown, or are we finally watching the crash play out in real time? Number 1. Frisco. You drive into Frisco, and at first glance, it looks like the American dream on steroids. Master-planned communities, shiny schools, endless strip malls. But under the gloss, the cracks are brutal. Zillow's 2025 data pegs the median home price near $620,000. 620! I actually muttered, "Nope," out loud. That's a starter home with a starter bankruptcy kit. And here's the kicker. Fitch Ratings warned in late 2024 that investor-heavy suburbs like Frisco could be staring down a 40 to 70% correction in a worst-case scenario. 70%! I had to sit with that one. That's wiping out 10 years of equity in one ugly swoop. Why? Because so many of these homes aren't owned by families. They're investor stockpiles, short-term rentals, corporate landlords, and when rental yields collapse, they dump fast. Redfin's early 2025 numbers show active listings up 50% compared to last year, with more than 40% of sellers already cutting prices. Days on market nearly doubled. Buyers are stalling, but taxes aren't. Killeen County's property tax rate hovers just under 2%, which means $12,000 annually on a $600,000 home. Insurance premiums spiked 25% since 2023, putting homeowners on the hook for more than $5,000 a year. God, that's not stability, that's financial quicksand. Even the local economy, strong on paper with tech campuses and the Dallas Cowboys HQ, is wobbling. Office vacancies around Legacy West and Stonebriar are rising, while remote work keeps denting demand for the priciest corporate relocations. Add in oversupply from relentless new builds, and you've got too many houses chasing too few stable buyers. So here's the big one. Is Frisco the epicenter of Texas's looming housing crash, or just the first suburb to show how fragile the dream really is? So there you have it. 10 Texas cities where buying a home in 2025 feels less like chasing the American dream and more like signing up for a financial mugging. From insurance bills that rival car payments to property taxes that chew up your paycheck, the risks are everywhere, hidden, compounding, and brutal. But here's the real question. Do you think this is just a correction or the start of something bigger? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if overpriced zip codes make you laugh cry, and subscribe for the next housing horror trip.